Here we're going to discuss about basics of object-oriented programming. What is actually object-oriented programming? Object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm. Programming paradigm means a programming approach, a kind of programming thought process. Object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm. It's a kind of or way of developing software systems. There are many programming paradigms like procedural programming, functional programming, object-oriented programming. So these are some of the commonly used programming approach to solve a computation problem. In procedural programming, we think our computation problems as many procedures that interact each other. In object-oriented programming, we think about a particular software computation problem as objects. Objects has data or what we can say properties or member variable, properties or attribute. Objects has functionalities or behavior or logic. Okay. Consider a problem statement like this. Customer come to shop to purchase an item. So here in this particular problem statement, what are all the objects? We have customer, shop, purchase, item, right? So these are some of the nouns in that particular problem statement, right? How these particular objects interact in the system. What is the interaction between a customer and shop? What is the interaction between shop and purchase? What is the interaction between or association between a purchase and item? So we need to think about what are all the objects in a particular system. In procedural programming, we just think about a lot of functions that call each other. In object-oriented programming, while developing a software system, we think about what are all the objects involved in the system and how those objects interact each other. That is a thought process to solve the problem. Okay, so we need to identify the objects in the particular computational problem and we need to define those objects. Okay, objects have data and functionality. For example, customer, in the case of customer has data, something like ID of a customer, name of a customer, phone number of a customer, address of a customer, right? And what a customer can do, that is the functionality. What a normal customer can do in a shop. Customer can purchase an item, customer can return an item, customer can query the price of a particular item, right? So while creating a customer, we need to think about what all the data a customer has to have and what are the functionality that you want for a customer to solve a particular computation problem. We just discussed about we have to create objects. So how do we create an object? So we need to define how a particular object should look like, right? Okay. So for doing that, in object-oriented programming, generally use a keyword called class. Provide a name. Inside this particular class, we can provide data members and logic or functions. Class is a definition of an object. So in the definition, we provide what are all the property or attribute or data members required for a particular object, and we provide what are all the functions. It can be one function, two function, three functions. How many functions you want to compute on this particular data. Okay. If you want to create a class customer, we can class customer. Okay, customer can have name, ID, and what are the functions of a customer. Def purchase item is one of the functionality. Okay, another functionality may be to return item. So like this we define a customer. So this is not the proper way of defining member variable in Python. Here just for understanding I just mentioned like this. Customer is a class, right? So we need to, the class is a definition of an object. So we have to create instance of class that is actually called as objects. For example, C1 equal to customer. C1 equal to customer. So here we created a customer. Okay. C2 equal to customer. So this is another customer. So like this we can create as many number of customers we need for our requirement. Okay. So customer is a just, class is a definition of an object, and object is an instance of a class. Okay. So it's actually, it's a blueprint or definition, and this is the actual object. So each and every object has its own properties. So here name and ID, right? So here C1 dot name equal to some name, maybe like Tom. Okay. C2 dot name may be Sita. Okay. Here there are two customer. Each and every customer has its own name, right? Okay. So similarly, each and every object has its own properties. So in Python, if you want to define properties while creating, we can just provide something like def underscore underscore init underscore underscore. That is the constructor function in Python, where we provide the initialization logic. We'll be discussing that through code. Okay. So here we can provide what are the initialization logic. Okay. Okay, init is the constructor function of the object. So I hope you got some idea about what is an object and what is a class and what is object oriented programming. I hope you got some basic idea about these concepts. Okay. While developing an object oriented programming system, we have to be aware of some important concepts in object oriented programming. That is, what is encapsulation, what is inheritance, what is polymorphism, and what is abstraction. These are the concepts behind object-oriented programming systems. We'll be discussing these through programs in upcoming sessions. Here we discussed about some of the programming paradigms like procedural programming, functional programming, object-oriented programming, right? So what type of programming paradigm Python support? Python support all these style of programming. If you want to develop your application using procedural way, we can develop using procedural way like C programming. Okay. If you want to develop an application using functional programming is another way of another thought process, like we create pure functions. In Python, function is also considered as an object. We'll discuss about how to do functional programming using Python later in upcoming videos. Okay. Python also support object oriented programming. Using Python, we can develop software system using any of the programming style you like, whether it is a procedural way thought process, procedural programming, or functional programming, or object oriented programming. All these are just thought process for solving your computational problems. Python supports all these style of programming approaches. I hope you got some idea. Thanks for watching this.